Hi everyone, how are you? I hope all is well with you and your family. It is the fourth online lecture. I'm sorry for the current situation, but for the safety, seems online teaching is the best option, right? Are you guys okay now with the format of online classes? And once again, I hope it is the last one. After each lecture, you have to complete a quiz shown below in the lecture. It is not long and not difficult at all, right? I just want to check whether you attend the class and want you to think about the important things in the lecture. If you omit one of them, you will be considered as skipping the class and will lose the credit for the attendance. And from this Thursday, we will have holidays. So there is no new Excel assignment this Friday and no lecture and quiz this Friday. We will have a new lecture and quiz next Tuesday. But still, after this lecture, you have to complete the quiz for this lecture. Okay, today we are going to talk about enterprise information systems. Enterprise information system helps organizations to integrate and coordinate their business processes on a robust foundation. And in this chapter, as usual, we have several sub-learning objectives. Okay, let's get started. The first learning objective is to explain core business processes that are common in organization. Here we will talk about core business process and value chain. Do you remember it? Michael Porter's value chain and value systems. The value system is simply an aggregation of multiple value chains. So today we are covering these, okay? Organizations and function. Regardless of industries, corporations are made up of different functional areas, traditionally around 5 distinct functional areas, including marketing, supply chain management, manufacturing, accounting and finance, and human resource. And let's talk about what each of these functional areas is responsible for. For example, in the marketing department is advertising, promotioning a product and service, and forecasting sales, right? In supply chain management part is procuring raw materials and components. The manufacturing department is changing raw input to output, like a manufacturing goods, and the accounting and finance department is planning and budgeting. And the last HR department is recruiting, training employee. In the future, you are very likely to work in one of these functional areas, depending on your major and specialty, right? These different functions need to work together to maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of organization. Core business processes. In most cases, customers do not care about the firm's business processes, right? Picture that when you buy a product at Amazon.com, you typically do not care which functional areas are involved in your transaction, right? You only care about the speed of shipment and the prices for the product, right? But again, as a future business practitioner, we assume that all you are going to be, right? You have to think about the behind the scene, what business process are involved in, right? There are several core business processes every company has and every company must implement. These include order to cash, procure to pay, make to stock, and make to order process. The first process is order to cash process. It refers to the processes associated with selling a product or service. It can be broke down into multiple sub-processes, including creating customer records, checking the customer's creditworthiness, creating an order, checking and allocating stock, picking and packing and shipping, invoicing, and collecting the payment. It is about every aspect of receiving an order, fulfilling it, and receiving payment for the same, right? For business organization, selling products or services is the main way of generating revenue, right? And then second process is the procure to pay process. These processes associated with procuring goods from external vendors are together. In order to be able to sell a product or service, firstly, company needs to acquire these raw material from its supplier, right? It involves every step necessary to acquire the goods and material necessary for the business to function, as represented in this figure. The sub-processes of the procure-to-pay process include price and term negotiation, issuing of the purchase order, receiving the goods, and receiving and paying the invoice. You can see that it also involves multiple business functions with the need to communicate throughout the process. The third set of core business processes is associated with producing goods and entails make to stock and make to order. Firstly, make to order process is more complex, as it includes additional steps involving taking the order and then doing any design and engineering work required. In the make to stock process, goods are produced based on the forecast and are stocked in a warehouse. Customers' orders are then fulfilled from inventory. In contrast, in the make-to-order process, raw material, sub-components, and accessories are procured based on forecast. But actual manufacturing does not start until an order is received. In extreme cases, even design and engineering start only when an order is received. So we can see that mass produced goods such as cars, television, home appliance are typically produced under a make-to-stock approach. In contrast, highly customizable or very expensive low-volume goods such as ship, aircraft are often produced under a make-to-order approach. Here, the organization waits for an order, allowing it to initiate a pulling sequence to move the order through the production process. This diagram shows the supply chain of book, which is comprised of several organizational value chain feeding into each other with business process until the book reach the final end customer. The supply chain starts with the tree farmer. Firstly, we can see make to stock process. The tree farmer its growing tree to harvest someday. And the tree farmer receives an order and eventual payment from the paper mill. Uh, Tree farmer does not have a procure to pay process because it is the raw material supplier. In contrast, paper mill and book printer start from uh, procure to pay uh, process. They all need raw material or intermediary goods from their suppliers, and then they are able to produce papers or books. I want you to look at this diagram and core business processes for each entity carefully, okay? And the next slide is about organizational activities along the value chain. Here, value chain again. From the value chain model, corporation is comprised of both core and support activity. Do you remember that? We also called primary activity instead of core activities here, right? What are the primary activities then? Do you remember? There are 5 primary core activity in the value chain model: inbound logistics, operating and manufacturing, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and customer service. All these 5 primary activities are directly involved in the producing, selling, maintenance, and support of actual product and service. And support activities are those activities that enable the core activities to function efficiently and effectively, but they don't directly create value for the customer, right? The one thing I want to add here is that different industry can have significant variance in their core activities. For example, originally the value chain framework was developed for analyzing the value-adding activities of manufacturing industry. But it can also be used to understand service-based industry. Many of the processes within service industries are similar to processes performed in manufacturing industry. However, whereas manufacturing industries deal with physical products, service industry deal with tangible and intangible products that typically have to be experienced and often cannot be tried out in advance. As a result, activities such as inbound logistics and outbound logistics are sometimes less important in the service sector, and many activities can occur simultaneously. And here, the figure represents the value system, which is simply an aggregate of multiple organizational value chain. Companies purchase goods and services from other companies and often sell to other companies as well, right? Multiple organizations working together and they form a value system. It is necessary for information to flow between company and for the smooth and efficient operation of the value system. When companies tie their information system together, they can send, receive information among other companies up and down the value chain. Okay, we stop here and we'll keep covering chapter 7 in the next lecture next week. And do not forget to complete the quiz. Okay, as I mentioned before, from this Thursday, we will have a holiday, so we will have a new lecture next Tuesday, right? Okay, have a good break and see you next week.